Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. He's talking about how there's a lot of coins coming into existence on a daily, weekly basis. About 1 million new tokens are being made weekly.
Stupid numbers.
So with 1 million new coins being made weekly, like, that's hard for any single coin to like start actually getting a good footing and holding and getting traction. So it's kind of hard for like an alt season to take place with so much spread.
I think we've like 10x the amount of coins in circulation since like the prior cycle to this cycle.
Yeah, so back in 2017, there were only 3,000 altcoins.
In 2020, 2021 bull run, there was about what, 30, 40,000? Welcome back
To another week.
of your favorite crypto podcast,
Sometimes Crypto.
The Unscripted.
Crypto Podcast.
Hey,
Ayo.
yo. Before we dive in, like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell, comment, do all the shenanigans you gotta do.
Yes. And if you find this content relevant, please give a share. Let your friends know. Let your family know.
And let us know.
And let us know what you think about our commentating podcast skills. I don't know. My sister literally sent me a script. She's like, "Oh, maybe you should say this." I was like, I just remembered that when you started talking.
Yeah, I realize that's a good thing to do also at the beginning and the end. Maybe even the middle,
Yes.
so people can,
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about. I
It's
believe
been an exciting week.
it has
only
been
Wednesday.
very eventful. It has been very eventful, and it is only Wednesday. What do you think?
This afternoon will tell a lot since we have the FOMC this afternoon, so that's also there.
Yeah, that's gonna be very important. Good news, bad news, that will affect the market for sure, as it typically
So whatever,
does.
by the time this is out, it already played out. We'll see what happens. We'll see how accurate we were in our forecasting.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a prediction on what will be said at this FOMC?
Not so. From the last meeting to this meeting, from my understanding is, ideally there's no rate cuts. It's gonna, we're paused. We're gonna get a pause right now, and it's really all. It's falling down to what he says post. What his sentiment? Maybe is he dovish or hawkish? Which everyone's assuming as of right now, it will be hawkish news since inflation is still very lingering, and he, maybe feels there's not enough damage done to the market.
Okay, so
Ideally,
first time I hear you mention these terms, doddish and hawkish. Sorry,
it's definitely not the first time.
It's been a while then, because
It could have been.
you say hawkish, and I'm thinking about Hawktua.
No, she disappeared. She fell off the planet.
Yeah, as she should, but continue. I digress.
Digressing. So realistically, any leaning towards maybe future potential rate cuts will be very bullish, very dovish, and could ideally pump the market if we swing towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything hawkish, anything really not, you can say bearish, but anything that will indicate either continuance of pause or an increase in rate you'll definitely feel it. Your portfolio will feel it.
So hawkish being bad and dovish being good.
If you want to call it that, sure.
That's what it sounds like. That to
yeah, but like it's also not. It's not good or bad. Realistically,
It's just
more
true. I see what you mean. I see where you're coming
It's just
from.
like the market playing to either one. The only bad thing is if you bought now and it goes down, it's bad for you.
Yeah, but if you haven't bought and it goes down, then it's good. Yeah, it's true.
Good for you. You see?
Yeah, facts.
It depends where you are. Unfortunately for me, I'm fully deployed, so it's all bad news at this point. Good news is bad. Bad news is bad.
Yeah,
it's all a show.
Yeah.
It's all a show.
Okay. And that's happening today, probably like what, around 12?
4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 4. Well, 4 for me, 2 for you.
Okay.
It's when
Not quite
we'll get
sometimes.
the
Yeah,
we'll get the rate release, and then 2:30 typically is when you get the.
We'll provide
the
an update
press
for
conference.
that next week then. Should we remember? Or should it be
We'll notice
eventful?
we'll notice what happens.
Yeah.
Where would you like to start?
That's a good question. That is a very good question.
You want to start with like Bitcoin price action real quick, and then we move on to the news that
Yeah.
occurred, or you want to?
Yeah. Let's go with the Bitcoin price action because I do have something to touch upon from what we talked about last week.
Cool. All right, so let me I'll quick share then, so we can look at the Bitcoin chart, because it has played out since the last time we looked at it. So a couple weeks back now, we were right down here, below this trend line, and we said if it breaks, well, we could possibly see a new all-time high. I said around 110. We didn't get there. We got 109, and now has retraced from that 109. It tested back down to this trend line, which is about this 0.5 level fib, just about 97, which this happened on Monday, which we'll touch on now in a little bit, and we've pumped back up, and now we're just slowly up, down, waiting for the FOMC to come out. So Bitcoin alone, not the rest of the alts, is technically in a somewhat bullish pattern for at the moment. It broke trend, it tested trend, and now we're just waiting for it to make new higher highs. As of right now, it has made a higher low from where it started. This was a previous low, higher high, and now it's come back and made a little bit of a higher low, but it's higher than this low.
So it did play out how you expected it to play out from
it has played out, and now we're just waiting for news, because news drives the market.
Yeah, particularly this news, FOMC,
and then this dump right here will make more sense once we touch on it. Mark the date, Sunday 26. We'll touch on that now. When it comes to total 3 and all that, it's really ranging. We're just, what is this total market cap? This is total 3. We basically got back up to previous market all-time high, and now we're sitting at a support zone, and we're just waiting. This happened Monday, Sunday, that big dump, which we'll touch on. The interesting one is actually the others, which is not as pretty as the total 3 market cap. So others is everything excluding the top 10 cryptos. And that's actually not doing pretty. That's actually in a really big downtrend.
Yeah, that looks like it's bleeding.
It's bleeding hard. There's not enough liquidity coming into the rest of the markets. It's really staying in the top 10, specifically Bitcoin, Sol, and stables. XRP as well, that has been
XRP, Doge.
Well. Everything that's holding up really respectively well compared to the rest. Other things are just bleeding out like there is no tomorrow. So sentiment, clearly, from what others are saying, is not pretty at all. It hurts out here to be a crypto in crypto. USDT dominance is actually still down somewhat. It has pushed back up. This is also consideration Sunday, which we'll touch on now in a little bit. It was doing good here. It pumped back up. It came back down, and now we're just waiting. And lastly, Bitcoin dominance has ripped right back up. We're really in Bitcoin season. There is no alt season to be seen. It broke out of this downtrend that we've had from when it peaked around 61, and now we're waiting for it to ideally maybe triple top, double top, back at 59 to 60%. Which, if it starts coming back down, we can see more of the alts starting to move. Hopefully. It just hasn't done so yet. There's a lot of institutional money just going into Bitcoin right now that the rest of the market can't. You can't do anything about it unless you get retail really pumping the rest of the alts, which we just haven't seen.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting numbers.
Bitcoin's still holding the 100K level. We're still looking good. FOMC will determine what we do next. As of right now, if we get a good FOMC, that we can see maybe a future rate cut or inflation somewhat cooling, we could see Bitcoin start to continue move up. Mind you, institutions are still buying. MicroStrategy's just bought again. Inflows to the ETFs are still strong. What's this other company? MetaPlanet, the Japanese company, is set to buy 21,000 Bitcoin by 2026, or 21,000 Bitcoin by 2026, if I'm not mistaken. So everything is setting up to be bullish, but really just Bitcoin focus, not altcoin or alt market focus, except for a very few handful of tokens that are performing well.
Yeah, Bitcoin's definitely leading the narrative this
It's
time
holding
around.
it, yeah, there's way more institutional money going in there, and it's just not letting up, which makes sense. It is the big dog.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot more support for Bitcoin this season.
Correct. So we're just waiting and seeing what's gonna happen next. It's holding support. It's doing good.
How's Solana and Ethereum doing?
ETH is a stable coin.
So last time Williams talked about a stable coin, it fucking pumped.
This is true. I did talk about XRP. I said it was a stable coin. So look, this is previous all-time high. This is ETH.
Nowhere near.
So we were all the way down here. This was November 26th. We were at 24. It pumped hard to right around here. November 13th. It hit 4,000, and it's been bleeding out since then. We're sitting at 3,100.
Yeah, it's weird because like Bitcoin and Solana have already surpassed their previous all-time highs very early into the season.
So every time ETH gets to that 4,000 level, it pulls back hard. 4,000 came all the way back down to 28. 4,000, give or take, came all the way back down to 21. It's stable coined, stayed in the 20s, broke out 4,000. It's coming all the way back down. It's on the support. This is the 200-day MA. 200-day moving average. So it has support here. What's good? If it loses it, we could probably revisit the lows at this rate.
Yeah.
SOL, on the other hand, it's in quite a bullish pattern, respectively. Broke out earlier, around November 24th, all-time high. Pulled down, went to 170, quite low, but it broke out hard again. Broke all-time high, 9 to almost 300. Retesting that trend line, a 50-day MA, and could be the next move up, breaking 300s. As of right now, they're all on levels. SOL's way more bullish than ETH at the moment. ETH is not very. ETH is on the downturn.
Yeah.
Straight. That's what it looks like. Downtrend only. Loses here, we'll probably see it 27. It's just ETH is not moving compared to the previous cycles, as you would expect.
Yeah, surprising, seeing how it's one of the oldest coins out there and one of the most
with the largest
built
market
on.
caps.
Yeah.
On that note, though, World Liberty Financial trumps exchange.
I believe
Hedge?
it's, yeah.
Right? They're buying ETH domains, ETH tokens left and right. So I have that. I'm gonna leave the ETH chart there. Let me look at it real quick if I have it here. So they have a total of basically 400 million in crypto held by World Liberty Financial. They're holding almost 200 million in ETH, 66 million in wrapped BTC. They're holding 6 million in Link, and they're holding some stables. They're holding about 50 million in stable coins. So they're definitely ETH protocol heavy. They know something we don't. No idea. ETH is just not moving compared to the rest.
Yeah.
So that's what it currently looks like. So FOMC will tell us a lot.
Yeah, FOMC definitely might dictate a lot of movement for the next couple of days.
Which is, it's currently the sentiment in the Twitterverse is there is no more alt season.
You know, I saw something along those lines also. I was going to talk about one other thing, but since you're bringing that up, I'm going to talk about the fact that Brian Armstrong, I was going to say Neil Armstrong. Brian Armstrong.
We're not going to the moon just yet.
Completely different guy. Yeah. The CEO of Coinbase, he's talking about how there's a lot of coins coming into existence on a daily, weekly basis. About 1 million new tokens are being made weekly.
Stupid numbers.
Yeah. So with 1 million new coins being made weekly, like that's hard for any single coin to like start actually getting a good footing and holding and getting traction. So it's kind of hard for like an alt season to take place with so much spread.
Yeah, especially just pre-existing and everything that's being released every day, every week.
Yeah,
I think we've like 10x the amount of coins in circulation.
Yep.
Since like the prior cycle to this cycle.
Yeah. So back in 2017, there were only 3,000 altcoins.
And like in our bull in 2020, 2021 bull run, there was about what 40,000.
Yeah, at most. Yeah, something along there. Right now, we're sitting at 36.4 million.
That's like over 10x actually.
That's insane because all these coins have, like all these altcoins have a certain amount of coins within them. Like it's gonna get really hard to get anywhere. For these shit coins, because that's what the majority of them are.
At this point, everything's a shitcoin except Bitcoin, Sol.
Yeah, if it's not the top 10, maybe top 50. Like,
well,
there's a lot of coins in the top 50. They're good. Like, but
this is why if you look, that's why I showed the other chart. Anything that's not in the top 10, we're down.
Exactly.
If you just exclude Bitcoin and ETH, the total three, we're technically in an up. We're going up. It's basically at all-time highs in terms of market.
So all that's coming from the top, what, 8 coins?
The top 8 are holding the rest of the market up,
essentially,
to a degree. Essentially,
that's like Apple and Microsoft back when the Nasdaq was pumping. The Nasdaq was pumping, but it was just like
the top 3
Apple,
companies.
Yeah, it was Apple, Microsoft, and Facebook. Essentially the same thing going on now with crypto.
Respectfully.
Yeah. So essentially, just so I could say Brian Armstrong saying that with all these new coins being created, he wants to kind of change the way Coinbase lists the coins, because as of right now, like there's like this whole process on whether they get listed or not. He wants to change it so that it's listing by default. Like if it's a new coin, they see it, they're listing it, as opposed and then whenever there's like reviews or like on-chain data that would lead them to believe that should be removed, then they'll remove it.
Yeah. So I'm assuming there has to be some sort of like threshold to get listed on Coinbase if they change that. For example, DEXs, when new tokens are launched, to get blue chipped, meaning that token gets immediately. Example would be when when the first Trump meme coin launched, that wasn't associated with the Trump, like it was them. But there are many Trump tokens then published afterwards. The only way we can tell the difference was either the smart contract itself, or once it had enough volume and like money coming in, they blue chip because it surpassed a certain threshold, and then it gets that blue chip to identify the listed versus the non-listed, meaning the ones that came after, and then to avoid rug pulls as much as you can.
Yeah, it's definitely going to cause some trouble in terms of identifying which one's legit, which one's not.
They're saying ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Yeah, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's going to be a little problematic, but for the people trading, the ones that are illegitimate. It makes it easier
for them, especially in the States.
Oh, yeah. And like also, he's a CEO of a big company. Like, if you're seeing a lot of coins being traded and you're not making any money off of that, you're going to try to see what you could do. And I feel like this is probably the only way he can at least make some money off of the coins that get removed at some point.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
we'll
facilitating those trades.
If it's a smart decision or not.
Yeah.
On that same note, before we move on from Brian Armstrong, he also addressed the Solana outages that they were having on Coinbase, stating that with the Trump launch, that they realized that there's not enough infrastructure built around the Solana ecosystem. So then they want to beef that up to make it, to minimize future either 9-hour transfers and 9 hours, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. That whole moving of funds between the Solana chain.
I don't blame him.
Which I guess it makes sense why that would happen to them, since they're so ETH and base heavy. Mm-hmm. They probably have better infrastructure for those things that they're directly connected to versus Solana and other tokens.
Yeah. And with ETH like not getting too much traction and Solana on the rise, you got to be prepared for everything that's to come from that.
Yeah. We move on to the latest, to what happened on Monday, I guess.
Well,
or you?
Yeah. Do you? I have one more thing about like Bitcoin before that, I guess.
Hit it.
So last week we talked about there being 10 states about proposing a Bitcoin reserve for their state level, like a rainy day fund. I believe now we are at 12. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 12. So I made a list. I didn't type out the number. With the latest additions being Utah and Arizona. But additionally, on top of that, I'm just going to give them all out. We got Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, Ohio, North Dakota, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Massachusetts, Wyoming, Utah, and Arizona, all proposing Bitcoin reserves. So I learned that Utah proposed the bill on January 21st, and just yesterday, on January 28th, it got approval from their representatives, I guess, and it's moving into the Senate for final voting. It's gonna, if that passes, it will take effect on May 7th. Which they're set to allocate about 5%.
Yeah, so Arizona also approved their Bitcoin bill, and it also has to go down to the Senate to be voted on as well. So I have it here. So they voted on it. The next steps would be Senate rules and committees, then followed by a Senate vote, which I assume Utah would have to pass the same thing. So I'm assuming they're going to be around the same time frame if everything passes.
Yeah.
Main difference is they want a little bit higher. They're assuming they're going to invest up to 10% of public funds, and that includes state treasurer and retirement systems into Bitcoin. Well, and they say digital assets, so it could be Bitcoin and others.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say about Utah. I forgot to mention this, that they're going into digital assets, but they have like some requirements. So for stable coins, there's like a list of pre-approved stable coins already. But then for any other like cryptocurrency, it has to have a market cap of over 500 billion, which is very limited to.
Wait, you said 500 billion?
Yeah.
So only Bitcoin.
For now.
It's only Bitcoin. Like not even
For
ETH.
now. Yeah, for now.
What the? That's dumb. Like
believe-
the only token that has 500 billion is Bitcoin. I think ETH
I
is like
believe-
at 3 or 4.
Yeah, I believe the idea is so like as ETH approaches for that and maybe Solana at some point, then they'll
Solana's
be
at 80.
qualifying. Yeah, they're looking long term, I guess.
Okay. So I didn't see Arizona having any rules set for what they can and can't.
Mm-hmm. I might have. Yeah, that's that's
Okay.
kind of crazy, but nonetheless.
Nonetheless,
Pennsylvania.
what issues?
Pennsylvania is the one that I was looking at a bit. They said that they're going to be allocating 10% from their rainy day fund. Their rainy day fund is like $7 billion.
So they're going to put in $700 million?
Essentially. Should that pass. And then they have another fund that's also kind of included in the bill, and that fund is like $9 billion. So
Good amount of money.
that's a lot of money in Pennsylvania alone that
Yeah.
could be allocated to Bitcoin.
So going back to what we were just talking about, this is why alt season is so difficult, because all these states and governments are mainly buying Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense, of course, because it is the biggest token. It is the most trusted. It is what everyone wants it to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it does push the market cap, not even the market cap. It pushes liquidity, better said, into that one token. And since it's all these big institutions, they're not going to rotate their funds from Bitcoin to the rest. They're not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so we saw this big move from from 40,000 to 60,000 when the ETFs launched. That was like $1 trillion that inflowed essentially in a time frame. That's why we got that pump, but the rest of the market didn't move at the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if this continues, that disparity, that difference, will just continue to grow.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the whole altcoin season might be delayed this cycle.
Yeah, it looks
If
as we're getting more clarity, the market is shifting drastically.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Yeah, so that's why you'll most likely see a handful of alts really take off and fly.
Mm-hmm.
The reason Solana is really moving is because there's so much meme coin transactions occurring that cause you to buy Sol to then put into memes, and then the profits will be taken are typically put back into Sol for the most part.
Yeah.
ETH is just a stablecoin at the moment. XRP for what dinosaur token history being talked about, being used in the federal government or in governments or in banking systems. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, XRP's got a lot of traction behind it now. A lot of hype and news because people are just speculating on it, on what will happen. But that's literally the whole entire XRP thing.
We'll see.
Alright, so now to the elephant in the room, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's time for the elephant in the room.
So why did the market crash on Sunday? I guess is what
let's
everyone.
talk about it. Why did we see that large pullback that we weren't expecting? Why did Nvidia lose $600 billion in market cap? Price dropped about 18%. Crypto lost almost $200 billion. Total stock market lost about $1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
A new AI competitor came out.
A big competitor, apparently.
Supposed to be cheaper, faster, and better
Than
than
what's
we currently
available.
Than
Yeah.
what's currently available throughout the world.
Mm-hmm. It's called DeepSeek. It is open sourced, quote, quote, AI made, developed by China.
Yep.
And
The
it's
company is
getting a
called
lot of
DeepSeek. The AI is called R1, right?
Yeah, that's the model.
Yeah, the model's R1.
That's the R1 model, DeepSeek R1. And there's a lot of controversy behind this AI. I've just been like hearing about it and kind of like looked into it a little bit today and like yesterday, but it's controversial. It's controversial.
So why don't we hit with what they are publicly allowed to say, and then we go into the controversy, I guess, right?
Yeah. So what did you hear about it, William?
Alrighty. So, DeepSeek is a Chinese company, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
They're performing faster, better than ChatGPT and other AI models we have.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, open source, and here comes the fun stuff. So apparently in hardware, they say they're approximately using 2,048 NVIDIA H800 GPUs, which are not as they're not as efficient, they're not as good as the H100s and other GPUs that OpenAI, Elon, and not Meta are all using for their large language models. Apparently, they only spent about 6 to 7 million to create the company. They did it in about 2 months and had a working model within as we were just released.
Yeah.
Apparently, the cost per query, meaning every time you put in input asking it a question, how much does it cost to run it, is approximately about $2.20. Versus ChatGPT or other language models is about $100 to $200 per query.
Interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's apparently much cheaper to run, which is a big thing, right?
Yeah. That's like, especially at that price difference.
Right? Yeah. Well, I said 200. I think the 200, that number I saw, may have been the total cost investment to run the query. I saw another one that was comparing it. That was about like it's $2.20 the DeepSeek one, and the ChatGPT is about $15 a query.
That's kind of crazy how that's the numbers, because like the ChatGPT subscription, like a basic subscription, is $20 a month.
Yeah.
And people be putting in a bunch of queries.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that adds up.
Well, that's why a lot of their money comes from the valuation of the companies, not what they charge you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
True that.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure they're also probably like selling data or something.
More than likely. Let me just double check the query costs for ChatGPT. Just to get an accurate number.
So from what I saw was DeepSeek did launch with a $6 million startup fund, which is nothing. Like, that's very small compared to OpenAI's $100 million, which is a big spread. But I did hear that DeepSeek was just pretty much copy and pasted from OpenAI's ChatGPT.
Well, yeah, we haven't gotten to that controversy, which they don't really specify.
Yeah. So like, it makes sense that it would be cheaper because it's just copy and paste. And to be quite frank, China, very well known for stealing intellectual property from the United States. So I wouldn't put it besides them to say that it's unlikely. And then on top of that, like it is open source where they did post a code online, and people can edit it and audit it. Well, actually, no, if it's open source, yeah, they can edit it.
You good there? You got stuck?
Yeah, I just yawned. I kind of don't know where to go now.
So yeah, as you were saying, it's open source. I haven't been able to look up the query thing yet because I googled it real quick. It said ChatGPT's like cost per query is like $36, but again, these prices are all different. I know I saw one for 15. I know I saw one for like 200. See if you can find that real quick.
Yeah,
the cost per query. I know the R1 is $2.20. But yeah, as you were saying though, it does. What were you saying? Damn, I lost my train of thought.
It's open source, and that they copied that they likely copied.
Yeah, so this is where the cost efficiency comes from. The fact that they're not creating their own new large language model behind it. They're not spending the money on creating the data set itself. They're using the ChatGPT data set that already pre-exists with whatever. It's basically getting. They ran it. From what I read is, they asked literally ChatGPT a bunch of different questions and gathered the responses from those questions, and they just did that until ChatGPT basically gave it all it can. So that's why when you ask the R1 where it got its information from, it says OpenAI and ChatGPT. So not the controversy, but they just use a pre-existing model to create their own. So the funny or the interesting thing is, meaning any new large language model created after the fact can do the same thing. It doesn't have to be them themselves. So it really puts into perspective how cheap you can create the new one after a company already spent hundreds of billions of dollars at this point or billions of dollars to create the actual data center and spent the money to gather the information to be able to come up with the responses, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there was a lot of the work was done already by OpenAI.
Yeah. So the new question is it worth OpenAI, Meta, all these other companies to continue to better their pre-existing data information, like their new pre-existing information to create the new models, for then just a day later a competitor come out, use what they already did to just create spit out the new information. So apart from that, as we said, they did buy those 2,000 GPUs, those H800s from NVIDIA. Now, the controversy comes from the fact that the U.S. has sanctions on them, so they can't purchase the latest and greatest. So the CEO of Scale AI said in Davos that they have about 50,000 H100 chips, well, GPUs. And that's what they're using, apart from those 2,000, to run the DeepSeek the R1 model itself. Which, if were to be true, and if it is the case, it didn't cost them $6 million. It cost them about $1.5 billion just in GPUs.
Yeah, I feel like it's very possible that they might have just like skewed some numbers because those chips are.
Well, they can't report it, so it's not even skewing. They just can't say they have those GPUs.
Yeah.
Since they're sanctioned off. So this is where it comes like we can't. Unfortunately, it makes it hard to trust information coming from heavily sanctioned countries since they are sanctioned.
Yeah, they could just be doing anything to. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, just trying to gain some type of traction and gain power and influence, better said.
Yeah. So with the release of this new AI, the market got shook up, mainly tech that spent billions of dollars to create infrastructure, to create new systems, because they found one that did it apparently cheaper, better, faster.
Mm-hmm.
Which caused, as we all know, Nvidia to dip 18%, the market to lose $1 trillion, and the whole thing. Which Nvidia's is kind of doesn't make sense since they are the ones who produce the chips, whether they use 2000 H800s or not, they still have to buy it from Nvidia. So, if anything, it does add competition, meaning
in the AI space.
In the AI space, in the AI space.
Yeah, not in the chip
not in
space.
No, all it means is I need less chips to produce it. So what Nvidia would have
but
to
like
do is
significantly less, because like the
Correct.
whole issue here is that they're saying that they did it with a very few amounts of chips. So
compared to what's needed.
What was expected to cost $1 billion cost only $6 million. Like, how?
Which is why I said it makes it difficult for the pre-existing companies to be like, okay, do we continue to expand the data centers we already have and create better large language models, if someone could come out and just use it the next day to create their own for much cheaper, since it's already using pre-existing information to create it. Because that's the thing now, R1 can't create its own language model after the fact, since it doesn't have the data center to do so.
Yeah.
And ideally the power behind it.
So additionally, like, at least I was checking out on their Wikipedia page, and there are concerns for censorship in terms of what R1 produces.
100%. That's they're all, every AI model is censored to their own, but the R1 is next level. You can't ask it anything controversial relative to China.
Yeah, anything that is considered sensitive in regards to the what is it? The People's Republic of China.
Oh,
yeah. CCP is how we refer to it over here in the States. Right. They refer to it as the People's Republic.
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah, I saw Corey that they were asking about like specific like controversial things. It would write the response
and then delete it.
Like it finished that, it deleted and wrote, "Oh, I can't answer this."
Yeah. So for the example that they say here was the query was for 1989 Tiananmen Square protest and massacre. Additionally, the prosecution of Uyghurs and human rights in China. They're sorry, that's beyond my current scope.
Which it isn't.
It's not. It definitely, because if it started writing it, like, it could definitely provide you something.
Yeah. But there's heavy censorship. It's also, when first launched, it was allowed to be used. It was launched everywhere. Immediately, like, after market open on Monday in the U.S., it was immediately scaled down to only mainland China being allowed to use with a Chinese phone number. Pre-existing accounts could still be used.
They were being hacked on Monday.
They were being attacked, yeah.
Yeah, they were being attacked with like DDoS. Essentially, if you weren't in China, you couldn't use it. Mm-hmm. Wonder who did that.
Yeah.
And then there's also going to be concerns for security and privacy. Because there are terms and conditions very similar to ChatGPT's terms and conditions, to be quite frank. However, this information is being stored in China. And this kind of led me down like the whole kind of like thought process that people are having now. It's like, oh, why should I care if China has my information if my government's doing the same thing? And I like at first I was like, you know what, like I kind of get that, like don't trust the government, and like if the people that be are already taking advantage of that, what is it if someone else has it? But then I realized at some point, and let me know what you think about this. If you don't trust the government that most closely identifies with your core beliefs, like you kind of were raised, like if for the most part, there are similarities. What makes you think that you should trust a government that has completely different ideologies and has no relationship to you with that same information? Like,
Yeah.
the difference is even bigger. Like, if you don't love your government, then you should absolutely not love any other government.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
No, I agree with that. If you can't trust the government you are living in, why are you gonna trust the government you don't live in and you probably share the least amount of
Nothing with.
similarities
Yeah.
with? Yeah, nothing.
exactly. Right? Okay, so I'm not like faulty in that logic, am I?
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah, so yeah, privacy concerns is definitely a thing. This goes also for like the Red Note app that people have been using.
What's that?
When Red Note, it's like the alternative to TikTok. That's like
Also
specifically, yes, but like meant for Chinese people, like
I'm
for
not
the
touching that.
people
Okay,
of China.
No, I'm not touching that. I didn't touch.
Yeah. So when Red Note like kind of like took off here in the United States, China, like these Chinese servers, like the algorithm got flooded with American content,
Jesus.
and so I've been hearing conversations about like how it was like very like what's the word, formal or like humble or like just basic stuff like that Chinese people would have, like, oh, cooking recipes and stuff like that. Then you see Americans absolutely like corrupting their Chinese
system.
algorithm. Yeah.
I imagine.
So
Look, I share one thing with Trump that with Trump on this China thing is, if China doesn't allow our apps, our cars, our whatever in their country, we should not be allowing them in ours.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense.
Right?
That to me adds up. If you don't trust us, then why should we trust you?
Why should we trust you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trust kind of goes both ways.
Trust goes
Like-
no, it does go both ways. It's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
It might have one lane, but it's two ways.
It might have one lane, but it's two ways.
Okay, it's a two. Yeah, you know what? That was irrelevant. X that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it trust, like, yeah, because once someone who is trusting another party, once they sense that there is mistrust, now some alarms go off and they're like, why aren't you trusting me? And then that trust kind of crumbles. Yeah, it takes
Takes two to tango.
it takes two to tango. Yeah.
But back on that DeepSeek thing, it's a thing. It definitely disrupts the market. It definitely disrupts the market in crypto because of AI and what they're doing. So apparently, there's going to be tokens that integrate with DeepSeek,
Mm-hmm.
or they're planning on it. Just to jump on that as well. I think Tau BitSensor might start running with DeepSeek or using some of their.
I don't blame them because it is open source.
Exactly.
And Tau and BitSensor, these are decentralized decentralized AI tokens. The ultimate goal for those two tokens would be to get as many endpoints as possible, so that the information that is being spit out is as uncensored as possible and as factual as possible.
Which I think we
Like-
both can agree that R1 being open source is a positive.
Yeah, 100%. That being open source is a positive.
R1 being more cost effective is also a positive.
Correct. I totally agree with that. If it truly is more cost effective.
Well, I mean, if they don't have 50,000 chips,
Yeah. If
Well,
it
even-
truly is.
well,
yes.
even if it has 50,000 chips and it still costs 1.5, it's still cheaper than what it costs all these other companies to do it.
Yeah. Any improvement is better. 100%.
Right? We can all agree on that. Now, I think what we have to look at is like,
The
okay, this is cost effective once the work and the foundation is done.
Yeah. The
This
concern
means-
for me is
Mhm.
usually the same thing: privacy and reliability. Am I being censored or told something that someone wants me to hear, and is my information being
accurate.
maintained properly.
Yours.
Yeah, my personal, like, is my search queries going to be public knowledge, or being used to develop a portfolio on who I am and what I'm searching?
Could be. On that note as well, though, NVIDIA made all its courses the very next day free. Oh, it's AI courses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Just to
That's
like be
super
like,
cool.
we can cut costs somewhere, or cut costs for consumers and make them more intuitive with the technology.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely a shocker. It'll definitely make changes. I think the market definitely overreacted. At least for NVIDIA, overreacted drastically. Even if they need less of those chips, you still need the chips, and there's only one place to get them. And if everyone's gonna buy chips, the demand will still be there. Maybe not as high, but still there. And if you want to create the large language model itself, the data center, you still need to go through them. Because someone has to create the data center if you want to keep expanding.
Yeah. Data centers are not like particularly cheap either.
They're not cheap, and you still need them. Because the thing is, DeepSeek itself R1 didn't create its own data center; it used one. So someone's gonna have to bite a bullet to continue. Making these AIs, these large language models, better every integration.
Yeah.
But
that seems like another market
overreaction.
That seems like another market opportunity. For someone to just make data centers, decentralized data centers, have some tokens flowing.
100%.
So I found a Reddit post from 8 months ago of someone calculating the price of ChatGPT 4.0, but this is in terms of comparing it to Google search queries. If you want, let me share my screen so that we can read it. Again, ChatGPT 4 costs as low as Google search queries now? ? Yeah, this is like what someone asked on Reddit. And then Mysterious Payments 536 says that he did the math with ChatGPT 4 based on OpenAI's monthly active users. And based on their pricing page, the cost of GPT 4 is $5 per 1 million input tokens and $15 per 1 million output tokens. So essentially, the AI model, as you're typing things out, it kind of like parses letters, strings of letters and characters into what it calls a tokens, so it can identify what it's reading and what it's going to be putting out. That's how the model kind of operates. It assigns strings into tokens, and those tokens cost about $5 per 1 million input and $15 per 1 million output. So he says, assuming a balanced usage of input and output tokens, the combined cost per 1 million tokens would be about $20. So for every 100 million users, the cost would scale linearly with the number of tokens processed per users. So in his comparison, the cost per Google's search query is much lower, with estimated Google handles a search query of around pennies, like fractions of a pennies. But that's just because Google's just searching, versus ChatGPT is providing you an actual like response. Article. Yeah. So ChatGPT 4's cost calculations, and just like how he broke down the math. Assuming each user generates 100 tokens, input and output per interaction, 100 million user generating 100 tokens is 10 billion tokens. With 10 billion tokens divided by 1 million, so that you could get like the average cost of like $20, it would equal 10,000 units. What what is it? 10,000 minus 10,000 units times 20, about $200,000 per 100 million people. Generating 100. What is it? 100 tokens? Yeah, 100 tokens. It's so for every 100 million people, $200,000 per query. Like this is the only thing that I found of like someone kind of breaking it down.
Yeah, it's hard to get the costs. You'll see different numbers. Definitely look up that number for yourself, because I've seen like multiple. I've said multiple on here as well. So it's definitely not
it's definitely something that would probably require some good amount of math and research being done.
Yeah, I can't find the one I saw that showed that the number
So
I've said. But
additionally, in terms of AI being a big thing, hold on, why did my other tab just went black? Like, I've never seen this before. There is another AI that is still getting some progress done, and I'm sure you've heard of it. I've talked about it to my friends and colleagues. CLAUDE by Anthropic just got another $1 billion investment from Google.
Nice.
So Anthropic is one of the biggest and most well-funded AI right now. And between Google and Amazon, those two companies have funded Anthropic with $11 billion. Which is a pretty penny. Yeah, that's a pretty penny. Recently, Anthropic did build a new API for their queries that will include citations into the request, which they weren't doing before. Kind of like how Gemini does it. And essentially, the idea for these citations is to reduce hallucinations and just like nonsense being sput out. Yeah, I think Leo Braves AI has citations also. If it's not Leo, then it's the other one by Microsoft. Copilot. No, Copilot.
Yeah, Gemini's Google.
Yeah, Gemini's Google. So Anthropic, Claude AI, I think it's slept on. Most people don't know about it. And it's definitely one of the most well-funded ones. So
yeah,
just wanted to put that out there, let people know.
Okay, cool. Quick little side note on that R1 as well. Another reason why people also liked it is because it showed its reasoning behind its response before and apart from just the response itself.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not a fan of just getting a response. I would like sources.
Yeah, it tells you, like, someone asked it, think of a number 1 to like 10,000. And they compare it to ChatGPT, where it just gives, like, it goes like, okay, your turn. Like, tell me what you think the number is, and it just like does that. Versus R1 does the same. It gives the same response, like, tell me what the number is, but it goes, here's how I'm thinking of what number I'm going to choose, and it runs down like the thought process behind it.
Oh, interesting.
Which again, I'm assuming most people would like to see that thought process behind it, not just get the straight response, as you said. I think if anything, what it really does, it pushes like what we want to see in our next iterations of AIs. Like, okay, we want the majority, or we want more of them to be open source because we all think that's positive. We want to see the thought process behind how it gets a response, or how it deduces like the information, or how it gathers the information you're requesting. Like, just on the front end, like back end, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, back end. God knows what. So, Um, so there's this newsletter that I follow, Milk Road, and they recently asked 5 AI models to predict the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Sol 2025 peak prices.
Okay, cool.
They started off with ChatGPT. Please give me a 2025 peak price prediction for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Do not give me a range. Give me a single figure for each represents each token coin predicted price peak in 2025. This was the same prompt that they provided for all 5 AI models. ChatGPT, they said, should I share my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so ChatGPT thought about 2025 peak price predictions for 8 seconds. Below is purely speculative 2025 peak predictions for each token. It says not financial advice, covering its butt, just like everyone else on YouTube. Bitcoin says 125,000, Ethereum 10,000, Solana 200. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, seems we're saving the worst till first. ChatGPT is bullish on ETH, neutral on Bitcoin, and so bearish on Sol that it gave 2025 peak price prediction $30 below its current price.
Yeah, like how can you say it's a peak price if we're above that price already? Okay, continue.
Yeah. The next one was DeepSeek R1. DeepSeek, yeah. So here's speculative single figure prediction for each asset's 2025 peak price based on historic cycles, adopting trends. It says Bitcoin's peak price of 156,000, driven by post-halving momentum, institutional adoption, i.e. ETFs. ETH at 11,500, fueled by ETH 2.0 upgrades, DeFi stablecoins growth, and potential ETF approval. And Solana's 475, assuming network stability, NFT DeFi adoption, and capital rotation into high performance L1s.
Okay, so honest response, like just on these two, I think they're way too bullish on ETH.
Yeah, so I'm like blanking out. Did the ETH ETFs not get approved already?
They've been approved.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it just says potential ETF approval. I'm like,
yeah, it's already approved.
This. Yeah. Yeah, and Solana's very like not bullish.
I don't agree with the Solana because that's what most people are projecting, between 500 to 600.
Mm-hmm.
Some are saying 1,000. That's
so Solana's just a little bit low on this one in terms of what.
Yeah, I don't think Solana's way too far off.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Ethereum 11,500, and then this one 10,000.
BTC, yeah, and also Bitcoin, at least for the R1, seems about fair, where everyone's speculating between 150 to 200. On the really bullish, are saying 250.
Yeah,
so I think that one's pretty close to what at least the sentiment is in the market. But continue.
Mm-hmm. So then the next one is Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is the one Anthropic. Even with my knowledge cut off, I can give specific predictions. Bitcoin at 185, Ethereum at 12,800, Solana 420. Says these predictions are based on historic patterns, techniques, analysis available up to my knowledge cutoff.
Do you see the current trend on ETH right now?
Yeah, high.
They each give a more bullish response on ETH.
Yeah. That is true.
Also, Bitcoin, they've done the same. So they're just like, nope, not bullish enough.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, Solana is pretty flatlined.
Jesus. Okay.
Oh, so then they also asked Grok. So they asked Cloud when their cutoff thing is.
No, that's
April 20.
That's Cloud.
Claude, yeah, Claude.
Claude.
Did I say Grok?
You said Grok.
Okay, so Grok 2 says Bitcoin's price prediction 200,000, Ethereum 7,000, and Solana 750.
I like Grok. I think Grok's like the most
Closest
Grok to me
related.
makes sense.
So it's funny because Milk Road would agree. He's like, that's more like it, man. This Grok guy is onto something. unless you're an ETH holder.
But ETH makes sense if it currently hasn't done it, and you think ETH is gonna do that, like move triple the price in like 3 months. I think that's hard to believe. That's just too much inflow, and the market isn't, and you're not seeing it in the market.
Yeah, there's very little support for ETH right now.
Versus Bitcoin and Sol, you're seeing the inflow in Sol, and Bitcoin has the ETF behind it and institutional buying. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty accurate. What did Meta's Llama say? I'm curious.
Llama 3.1, Bitcoin $250,000, Ethereum 8,000, and Solana 500. And then it says, please note these speculations are purely speculative. So
I like the combination between Grok and Llama the best. The other three I think are off, like ridiculously.
yeah, so then they averaged out the price predictions, saying Bitcoin is going to be 183,200, Ethereum 9,860, and Solana 469.
So just to put it in perspective, that 9,000 from ETH is a 3x. It's a 2x.
Yeah.
No, it's a 3x.
It's a 3x.
Solana is a 2x from current price, and ETH is about a point. Not even. It's like 20%. It's like 30% up, 50% up from where we are. 50, 60% respectively from where we are right now. I think people are way too bullish on ETH. Sol seems about right in my opinion. I think we could probably see a top out around 550. And I like Bitcoin there. 183 is it's a good take profit if you're going to take profit.
Yeah, 183 is a really good take profit for sure.
I think if you're waiting for 9,000 on ETH, I think you're dreaming.
Yeah, it's kind of bullish.
That's crazy.
I agree. So I feel like Grok's 7,500 for ETH is probably as bullish as it'll be.
I agree.
Yeah.
If it, yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. I mean,
So then they also have this guy named Martin who works at Milk Road, and they asked Martin.
Martin's like a real person?
Yeah. Yeah, Martin's like an actual person.
Okay.
He says 180 for Bitcoin, 7,000, and 800 for Solana.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah. So
That
yeah,
sounds
I
about
thought that
right
was
to
a
me.
little fun thing that they did.
Okay. So I guess FOMC later. R1 making a shit show in the market. Nvidia will probably still be alive in the next 10 years.
Nvidia's just fine.
You gotta buy a chip somewhere. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
we'll see. A lot of development.
Moving away from crypto, last thing I'm gonna cover before I think we get out of here. So, do you want to know what's coming to your iPhone that I think you might be excited for?
I have a guess, just because. I kind of don't want to be right, because then I feel like I'm gonna take all the steam away.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool if you're right. What's the guess?
Crypto wallets on the wallet app.
No.
Fuck.
But
Damn, that
since
would have been cool.
But since you brought that up, it wasn't what I was going to talk about because I just felt like we're going to keep on running longer.
Okay.
But Sui will have SMS receive and send.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so you will be able to, on SMS, I believe on iPhone as well, you'll be able to send Sui with a text.
That's really
native
cool.
From their chain, meaning it just their chain will allow the transaction to occur via messaging.
That's really dope.
Also, a really good performer in this market has been Sui, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
It dipped from 77 cents all the way to 550. Currently sitting at 360 something. Good performer.
Okay, so was that what's coming to Apple?
No.
Okay. So what's coming to Apple?
So, as you know, right now, if you don't have service and there's a satellite around, you can point your phone to the satellite and you can send messages. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be moving away from the current people they use to SpaceX. They will use SpaceX Starlink to be able to send messages via satellite when you don't have service. And you won't have to point your phone. Since SpaceX, my camera might die for some apparent reason.
Okay.
I hope not. It's still connected. It still hasn't turned off, but it does have the power button dying.
Okay.
Whatever.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Lastly, they're going to start running the program through T-Mobile.
Okay.
As a beta, and then they want to work their way up to full-on voice, audio, low-resolution images, music, podcasts, and just expand.
That's
I'm
really
just
cool.
waiting for the day you can get SpaceX on your cell phone.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be very cool. All right. You want to wrap up then?
I got nothing left anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys made it this far, drop a like, share, comment. Let us know. Subscribe.
Show your friends,
follow.
family. Subscribe, follow. Do the whole shebang.
Yep. Thank you for tuning in
To another week
of your favorite crypto podcast,
Sometimes Crypto.
The Unscripted
Crypto Podcast.
Ayo.
Hey, yo.